So have you ever met somebody that's been playing guitar for like their whole life and they play the same thing every single time they pick up a guitar? Or is that person you? Not that there's any shame in it, but today I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to remember to help maximize your practice and to help make you a better guitar player. I've been playing for about 30 years and I've made every mistake you can make. And please take this to heart when I tell you, when it comes to practice, it can be overdone. Don't think that you're going to sit down and master entire albums or solos in your first month or two, or even your first year of learning the guitar. When you practice, you should isolate a couple of small skills. So focus on maybe a couple of chords that you want to be able to switch between really cleanly, or maybe like a bend, or maybe a portion of a solo that has really been giving you a hard time. This will help you track incremental success as you practice, and that will actually encourage you to practice more psychologically. It'll also keep you from getting frosty, which brings me to my second tip. Avoid getting frosty. Frosty is forcing repetition, overload, and then stalling your growth. If you try to force yourself to practice the same thing over and over again for hours at a time, and it's this grueling, miserable treatment to both your brain and your body, and your hands hurt, and you're frustrated, and you want to cry, that's going to make it where you are less likely to want to practice. So again, be really mindful. Don't make the practicing action something that you associate negatively in your mind, because it'll make it more difficult to get motivated to practice. Brings me to my third point. There's a huge difference between practicing and playing. Practice is where you are outside of your comfort zone. You are at the very edge of what you're able to grasp or able to kind of do on the instrument. So it should be something that you are struggling with. It should be something that is not easy for you. It should be uncomfortable, and it should absolutely not sound good. That brings me to my fourth point. If you sound good playing the guitar, you are not practicing the guitar. You should sound bad. I remember when I was in college, I used to get really self-conscious about that because I had like roommates and stuff, and I didn't want them to hear me, sucking at guitar. So I recommend a headphone amp if you're one of those folks. That way you can practice quietly, and then, no one will laugh at you. Not that they're judging you anyway, but definitely something to think about. Another tip I have, remember this, there's nothing wrong with your hands. I would say about half of the folks I've tried to teach guitar lessons to insist that their fingers are too short, their fingers are too fat, their wrists can't move that way, their fingers and joints can't bend that way. All that's nonsense. You absolutely can learn how to play the guitar. If you don't believe me, look up Django Reinhardt. He's like missing, I think, 2 or 3 fingers on his fretting hand, and he was an insane guitarist. Cheat code is backing tracks. You should practice to a backing track or a metronome whenever you can, or even like the track of the song that you're trying to learn how to play. I've met people who can rip, who can play scales, who can sound pretty good on their own, but aren't able to really play in time with a band. If you're that person, you're not going to be able to play with a band. And I assume the reason you want to play guitar is so you can eventually play in a band, for the buckets of money and women that come along with that, right? Last but not least, playing things that are better is not the same as playing things that are necessarily harder. There are people out there, your Yngwie Malmsteens and your Joe Satrianis of the world and your Steve Vais, who can just shred. If that's your bag and if that's what you're into, the guitar acrobatic speed and all that, more power to you. But don't be intimidated if that's not kind of where you come from as a guitarist. You might be somebody who is really good at chord voicings or really subtle but tasty fills. Or you might be able to do 2 or 3 notes where people are just awe-stricken. Maybe you don't need to play 200 notes. So again, playing something that's harder doesn't necessarily mean that it's something better. And that is easy to forget, especially when you're an intermediate guitarist. I sure hope that these tips have been helpful for you and that you continue your guitar journey. Don't give up. It's definitely a marathon and not a sprint. You're never really done learning the guitar. I've been playing for 30 years and I'm still learning the guitar, and I think I always will be. It's definitely one of the things that's brought me the most joy in my life, and I hope that it does for you too. So hang in there, keep on practicing. I hope this gets you out of that rut. Stay tuned for more content and videos like this one.